Well, welcome to another episode of the Scrumdown, your weekly rugby fix. My name is Skalk Buertes, also known as the Rugby Nerd, and I'm joined by Pieter van Oostelen, our Sports One news anchor on Free Vision Play, which you guys can catch every morning for the latest news. This week we're going to have a look at firstly wrapping up round 6 of the URC, just having a look before this competition go into the international break, and then having a look at what the Springboks are all up to going into this year-end international season. So Peter, first up, let's have a chat about the URC. We had round 6, which was quite a grueling one. We saw a bit of a mixed bag for the South African teams. We saw fantastic win by the Sharks, ugly win for the Bulls. Then a very disappointing matchup for the Stormers, and then a valiant effort by the Lions, unfortunately not pulling it through against table-topping Leinster. So I think let's have a chat first on the Bulls game. So we saw the Bulls travelling down to Italy to face Benetton.
Yeah, I listened to Jake White in his post-match, and you and I have chatted about how they just seem to find ways to win somehow. I mean, it was ugly. He admitted it was ugly. At least he didn't have to deal with any disciplinary issues with the players. And I mean, a 17-15 win against Benetton sees them now up to third on the log. So he said it was ugly, he admitted it was ugly, but a win's a win. And
well,
so
it was so ugly that we saw the winning try only coming in, I think it was the 78th minute to draw up. And then we had Creel, quite a tricky from the goal line kick, put it over with ease to take it on and just breaking poor Benetton's heart at the end. But give it, and this is really the signs of a champion team, a team that's under pressure a whole game, playing in yet again wet conditions, third game on tour, so obviously some feeling some fatigue, but really just grinding it out. So
no, look, they'll be happy going into the break now, sitting in fairly comfortably. They've still got a game in hand on some of the other the other teams. But Jake White he just knows how to do it. He managed it so well. On the road for them,
and they'll be happy. Two wins on tour. It's always tricky, especially in the beginning of the year in the conditions that's really not suited. Now to sit on that position and to have this tour behind them, very good space to be at.
Our team, the Lions.
So the Lions,
not a great finish to the break.
Not a great finish to the break, but listen, even the
Irish buts. It was a poor performance.
So give it to Leinster. That is the team. Many reckon this is the best franchise or club team in the world currently. They're basically consisting of 70% of the Irish team as well. So you really see a very strong team, well coached. Remember Coach Jock Niebuhr joined them in the beginning of the season. Clearly his tactical approach, especially on attack, definitely rubbing up on the team. But listen, I give it to the Lions. They were fighting. They were defending like Trojans. Remember, this is the first time Leinster did not get a bonus point for 4 tries scored. So they did give them a bay. And listen, the scoreline is a little bit flattering at the end. So we were looking at that scoreline 24-6. Remember, there was a penalty try in overtime already. So listen, give it to the Lions. I think one thing that did catch them though was fullback Horn leaving the field with a HIA. Unfortunately, and we saw a bit of a shuffle. We had Van der Merwe playing in fullback, not as known as a fullback. So I think from attack we were lacking there. But listen, give it to the Lions, still managing to show strong defence.
Yeah, and still top 4. So they've had a good run in that first 5 games.
I think a lot of teams or a lot of people in the know actually said, listen, bit of a flash in the pan for the Lions, good start, but they're going to fade. I think this actually showed them, listen, this Lions going to be a team to be reckoned with. Even though it was a bad loss, still a good team that knows how to grind things out. So I think let's take some positives from this.
Look, they'll be relieved at the break, I think, now, and just regroup and come back home and reset.
And they've got the benefit they don't lose any players to the Springbok team, so they really can build this. Maybe I'm assuming the teams will be going on a little bit of a 2-week breaker, and then for them, it's back to pre-season to get that next round going. So,
but Sharks disappointing.
No, Sharks were not. Remember,
but
Sharks.
Still, 3 wins from 5. They got the win, which is great. There'll be a momentum going into the break. But still,
but I can tell you, the Sharks, if you look at that scoreline, was 41-24 against Munster. Now Munster, it's a well-placed team, not having the best season though, but finally that Sharks team looked like they clicked. So they were dominant at front. They were breaking lines like nothing, and. A team that doesn't really finish well. You saw this week that they really did fantastic, just grinding it out, but just outplaying the poor Munster men. You know,
And good to see Sia, playing.
So they had the benefit of all their Springboks back. Awal attended Kings Park in Durban, so crowds backing them again. You know, and I think when they get back from tour, you'll see a lot more crowd pulling in. This was really a polished performance, and I think Plumtree, the coach, is pulling out his hair because he's sitting with all those Springboks. You know, they're sitting with a squad of 16 Springboks, to not really getting into that cohesion. It's frustrating, but now I think hopefully this will be like a bit of a watershed game for them to say, listen, okay, this is where it all started. They're going to be a little bit disrupted now in the 4 weeks coming with losing basically the whole squad to the Springbok team. But listen, still, it's a potent team, and I think hopefully you'll see them moving up the ranks very quickly.
Also, a game in hand, so they could well move up.
But considering they were second from last to found themselves midway now, we'll see a lot more happening of that. And then unfortunately, that Stormers team is really disappointing. We saw them playing at the Donny Craven Stadium in Stellenbosch. Full crowd, it was a vibe.
No, it looked amazing. I mean, it was just so unique, such a unique atmosphere. As opposed to the Cape Town Stadium.
But it's just not a team, yet again, not clicking, and it's just basic problems. They handling errors, forward passes. There was three or four forward passes where it's an open goal line, and just not finishing up. So Dobson is definitely frustrated, I'm sure, at this stage. There was even talks earlier this week that there's a SOS call out to Johan Ackerman. Now, he was the coach for the Lions back when they were in their prime. In Super Rugby, that myth that I read this morning was debunked, but clearly they are worried because this is a quality team, quality players. Just again, like the Sharks earlier this season, not clicking, not getting to that places, and I'm sure the fans are also getting quite frustrated at this stage.
Yeah, they're 13th now, 3 from the bottom. It's not looking good for them. You just don't see how they're going to get out of this. How they're going to.
Well, maybe this break is going to be a blessing for them. I think it's a reset. Maybe look at the strategy. They need to just finish. I think it's just that final, those basic elements they just need to get right at this stage. So, a bit frustrating, but back to the drawing board. But listen, there's still a lot to look into this team. So I think as we get to the end of round 6, as we mentioned, we're going to go on a 4-week break now. So I think let's quickly just sum up where we're at. You already had a quick look at that log. So listen, at this stage, looking at Munster, the team to beat. This is, they've always been underperforming in previous seasons. Leinster,
6 from 6, unbelievable. They just
but also if you look at that, they were only the 1 bonus point, so they managed to get try bonus points in all their games except for the last one against the Lions. Listen, Glasgow Warriors also a strong team. They faced now, they're coming back from a South African tour now, winning two games as well on tour, beating the Stormers and really looking like a championship team. They're keeping their momentum. A lot of, many were thinking Glasgow was a little bit lucky. Previous season they had a quick route and they win the crucial games, but it seems like they are a quality side at this stage and actually quite well, and I think this is also a good standing for the Scottish team as such, because a lot of this team is represented in the Scottish team, so I think a good standing for them. And then we said, Bulls, Lions 3 and 4 with a game in hand, well positioned. Connacht, Scarlets, so basically if we break it down, the Irish sitting with, if you look at this log, 3 in the top 8, South Africa with 2, Scotland with 1, and then so it's a bit of a big mixed bag.
At that resumption on the 29th of November, you got some South African derbies, which will be interesting to see how, we've got the Sharks and the Stormers, the Lions and the Bulls in Ireland.
Yeah, because we haven't had any derbies in this competition yet. So it's also a little bit, we're traveling, we haven't seen our own place, and I think that's going to get the teams to the party. You see a lot of times that the guys really, they man up for these derbies. So I think that's going to be fantastic. So listen, all there. Then going down the lock, unfortunately the Stormers got a lot to do at this stage. Even going down the lock, you look at Dragons, you look at Zebra. Definitely the wooden spooners at this stage. Unfortunately, you see, I don't think they've got the personnel really to carry them through. They don't have the depth either to carry them through this. So not much hope for them. But that's an interesting round. And I'm very chuffed with our team. I think the Lions, definitely the odd one out here. We always see them start very slow and then try to fight back. Now it's just a case of keeping momentum.
And the key is to get into that top 8. I mean, that's
the goal.
That's where everyone's head should be at.
Cash van Rooyen even said, listen, they're pushing for top 4. The stage might just be in reach. So let's see. But now just do consistency. And now we, going to this break, we're going to see a lot of teams being a bit disrupted, losing a bit of momentum. A lot of these teams now starting, I think, like the Sharks, finally clicking. unfortunately, this is now a bit of a setback for them. And then, we're only going to go back into, I think it's 3 weeks of play going into December, then another break for the championship.
Look,
Cup
you
and
and I have argued about this.
We're gonna get into that discussion.
Because it's frustrating, Scott. It's frustrating.
It's a stop and go.
You want a tournament that can start and finish, and
Yeah.
you can get a winner, and that's it.
Yeah.
But it really is drawing it out. And I understand it's the international break and the professional game makes players having to go elsewhere. But it is frustrating. It's frustrating.
But I think, considering rugby used to be a winter sport, and that's why you see Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere not having the same scheduling. Considering that rugby is now played throughout the year, I think it's a good argument to say, listen, okay, we now start syncing up schedules and say, listen, let's align all the club championships, so all of them, Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, we have our windows for the international breaks or international competitions. Why not?
The concerns for many of them, like the Sharks, they've got a lot of internationals there.
Yeah.
The concern is injuries now for over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got the Lions, who've got the bulk of their squad who are based there.
Yeah.
So they could well be at an advantage.
But pros and cons, because remember, those players are getting game time. The Lions players are not. You see, so for me, it's always a touch and go. You still want to keep on moving. So
I don't know. The injuries always would be a concern for these local teams.
Yeah. But listen, both those squads got so much depth. I think it's actually a good opportunity for new guys to come through. But listen, excited. I really enjoyed the first 6 rounds.
Yeah.
I think this is really setting up for a very interesting competition going forward. So I think let's quickly have a look now at internationals. So. Now we see all the Southern Hemisphere teams moving up to Northern Hemisphere as we do the sum of the year. And as they refer to as the autumn series in springtime in South African terms. But, that's not the real challenge. What I do like about this is because you see a lot of these old foes meeting first time since they met up in last year's World Cup. So there's some serious grudge matches coming our way. There's some definitely some teams want to prove a point. But I think let's quickly have a look firstly at the South African teams. So we'll be facing Scotland, then England, then Wales. So it's going to be 3 weeks. So we're starting our first one on the 10th of November. Listen, just make a little note. It's Sunday, not Saturday.
Yes, I saw that.
Before you invite your peers for a braai.
Monday will be a bit messy, but
we'll take it. How many of those during the World Cup? We had those Saturday games, and we were just flattered from Monday.
9 o'clock kickoff.
I think we should be getting a morning off at least on Monday morning. So I think as a team. So listen, first up against Scotland. Now Scotland, we last played in that pool game against them in the World Cup, right? Yeah. It was a kind of critical game for us because we were really, assuming that we're going to go down to Ireland. This was our buffer game. The Scottish were on form, and it was actually, they were coming guns blazing. It wasn't a high scoring game. We saw that brilliant try from Libbok, that no kick or no look kick pass, and Ardenson scoring in the corner, just setting up the tone for this. But it was a hard game, and I think we'll see a lot more grit from the Scottish. Yeah. Also, quite different playing in Murrayfield. We'll see different conditions. We'll see, the crowd is rowdy. I was quite privileged to saw a match for myself there. It's next level. The crowd is singing.
All of these European teams. I mean, you go to Twickenham, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You go to Cardiff, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been there when the Boks were playing Wales. I mean, it is insane.
So, we can.
But the thing is that all these European teams now have got it in for us. They know that we're the team to beat. Yeah. You and I have argued about world rankings and whether Ireland are the best team in the world or we're the best team in the world. But you can be assured that these guys are up for it. Yeah. They know we're the world champions. We know that we're the rugby championship champions.
That's the thing. You've got a number in your back now. It's everybody's going to gun for you, and that's going to be quite nice. So I'm looking forward to that game. I think the biggest game for us is going to be the following week against England at Twickenham. The English, obviously, they want to get revenge now because if you remember, we played them in the semi-finals. Trailing the whole game through, only to really Arge Snyman, the Viking, coming through for us, scoring that try quite late in the game, and then with only a few minutes to go, scrum penalty, as South Africa do, and Pollard's putting over the most perfect kick from halfway through. So breaking their hearts, and they felt that they had one hand on the trophy.
But you can also be assured that they're studying, or they've studied to see what kind of tactics we'll play. We'll put the up and under, the same tactics that we used in the World Cup, put them under pressure in their own half. They know that. You can be assured of that. And they're going to try and maybe change it up somehow. We've seen in these URC games, the line-out balls
Yeah.
that are, 1-2 in the line-out.
Yeah.
Like little things.
Yeah.
I know the team, the Bok team have arrived in Jersey.
Yeah.
They're pretty comfortable there.
So they already kind of gearing up.
Yeah.
But also on that point, I also want to say that hulle weet nie wat ons weet nie.
Thanks, Driekus.
Because I can tell you, Rassie is definitely.
Yeah.
I can now.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet you now.
Guarantee it.
We're going to be hitting them hard with the scrums because that's where
Yeah.
we always hit them. But be surprised. I think we're going to run them off their feet a little bit as well. But it's going to be a tough matchup. And playing at Twickenham, as you said, it's going to be hostile. The English are not favouring or not liking South Africa at all at this stage. So there's a lot of.
But also that change. I think one concern Rassie will have is possibly the kicking for goal.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got obviously Pollard there, Mr. Stability, but I think he might want to play a different kind of game.
Yeah.
Get Jordan Hendrickse in there, and possibly.
Yeah, I think that might be the case because I think Libbok at this stage is definitely playing the style that Tony Brown wants, right? So they're playing that running type style. Libbok is the perfect mold for this. He's attacking fly half. He runs in good distribution, good kicking game. His kick pass is on point. Fortunately, his confidence to the post just really been taking a knock since last year. But then, as we saw in some of the previous games, we might even see now where taking the pressure off Libbok, you might have a Jordan Hendrickse coming in, or his brother. Also, Jaden Hendrickse, also kicking for post. We have Colby who can kick to post as well. So I think ultimately he wants to take that pressure off Libbok, but still playing that running style. Then have Pollard on the bench. So if we do have a bit of a hiccup at some point where we on the back foot and now we need to play a bit more conservative game, but also make sure that we get those penalties across, then Pollard is going to be the man. And I suspect that's what the intention is going to be. I think on that point, before we move on, I think this week have a look at that team because it's quite interesting. We initial team came out. It's a strong team. It's a tried and tested team. Rassie was a little bit criticised for not picking some youngsters on tour, but I think he really wants to make a point and say, listen, we have a fantastic season so far, only losing 2 games with 1 point each. This is a season where we really want to show the world, listen, we're not a flash in the pan. We can now really keep on going hopefully for another season to the.
I mean, our forwards are epic. I mean, you look at, Oxenshire, we got Malcolm Marx, Eben, they're all there, they're all good to go from the World Cup. And for many, I think, they're in the twilight of their careers. This may well be, like heading towards the end of their careers.
I think in Rassie already spoke about getting you will see some movement of some players coming out. We already saw Faf de Klerk not going on tour, John Klein not being picked on age, Trevor Nakande also not on tour, and you see some fresh blood there. But I think as a core, you really want to keep that core players and that, especially the tight 5. You want to have those grunt guys coming through, and we're going to be leaning on them a lot. We might going to see a lot more game management in the next 2 seasons leading up to the World Cup, where you see Eben only play 40 minutes or even less, or coming off the bench. But keep the guys fresh because we need a Eben, we need a Peter Steph the Toy, we need these big guys to make that impact, and then obviously the bomb squad. So these guys making soft, and the bomb squad's coming up, and you might see a lot more fresher legs coming up from the bench. So. We did see, obviously, we had heard that Willemse injured himself in that Stormers game, going off with a groin injury. And true Rassie fashion, he called up Cameron Hanekom. So Hanekom, the 8th man for the Bulls, really coming up through the ranks. Many say, listen, he is the find of the season for the Bulls, for instance, last year. We can probably going to see a lot more of him in the box squad. Also, Rassie was a little bit under pressure because there was a bit of a hint that Wales is actually also considering selecting him for their national team because his grandmother is Welsh and putting him in contention to actually play for Wales. So
we've got Scotland, we've got England, and we've got Wales.
Yes.
How do you see those going?
Okay.
What is your call?
Scotland, comfortable win.
Yeah.
England, it's going to be a win for the Boks, but I'd say by 5.
That would be my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Is England, because they want us badly.
They want us badly. No, they want us badly. And then we're going to look at Wales. And then Wales, listen, we played Wales as a first game this season. We thrashed them. It was quite a big scoreline, just trying to refresh my memory now, but we put about 40 points on there.
Yeah.
So, France, they're not going to be in a good space. And I think what we're going to see is a big score there, but we're also going to see some rotation, I suspect. Got some new fresh guys in. Cameron Hanekom, we just mentioned, opportunity for him to come in and just make a point for Welsh to say, sorry, he's not available for selection. So, yeah, so I think listen, it's going to be an interesting tour. One thing would love to see on that list is Ireland, because we played those 2 tests against Ireland, win 1, lost 1, only by 1 point though. But it's a little bit it's still who's the best team now, because this was all on the conversation of who's the best team in the world, number 1, number 2 facing each other, and a third game now on tour would have been fantastic to kind of put that conversation to bed and to see how the Springboks perform in Dublin, because tell you, playing in Dublin is quite a different scenario than playing like they did here at Loftus and Kings Park. So
I see the Irish are playing the All Blacks. Good game, but as you say, I think we should have actually been
that would be
included in
fantastic.
that.
And we only have 3. It would have been a 4th game would have been fantastic, considering that we already played Wales. But we are playing the home nations, so we could potentially get what they refer to as a triple crown to at least win those 3 games. But I think it's a little bit, we want more. We want to play the Irish, I think. But we'll see. I think the debate is still open, unfortunately.
Some great other internationals there as well.
Some big matchups. So let's have a look quickly. So England, New Zealand, those are 2 teams that do know how to gun for each other. So the England toured in New Zealand earlier this year. And the All Blacks managed to get 2 out of 2, but only managed to scrape through. We saw, and I just wanted to have a look again. I think it was, they were only beat remember the last game only by 1 point. So it was close matchups. Now, considering it was Scott Robinson's first Test match or stage series as new All Black captain or coach, everybody said, okay, they need to find their feet, and it was really not a good showing from the All Blacks. The English actually were a little bit unlucky not to take at least 1 win out of this. For them, back at Twickenham, I think they are definitely going to be gunning for the All Blacks. All Blacks are a little bit still under pressure. I think there was a lot of criticism, Box beating them by 4. Still a lot of criticism that they're not really finding their feet yet, but listen, it's a bit of a rebuild for the All Blacks, so we get that. But with the English, I think it's going to be a very tough matchup, and we're actually going to be blessed to see that even next week, Peter. So I think just to kick off a very interesting series, I always also highlight that Ireland All Black game. Now, this is going to be a big one. For me, I think this is going to be the biggest one for this whole international series. Now, let's rewind 1 year ago. Quarterfinals. All Blacks against the Irish. Irish are tipped off to be the favourites to win this league. Remember, the Irish have never managed to progress past a quarterfinal. They always talk about the Irish curse. That's exactly that. And probably one of the best games of rugby you'll ever see. The Irish against the All Blacks. The All Blacks grinded out at the end to win by the smallest margin and breaking those poor Irish hearts again. So they will be going
bogey
out for
team,
revenge.
the bogey team. They just can't seem to get past the All Blacks.
But now I think overlook now. I think I suspect the Irish are going to get this one over the All Blacks. But it's going to be a tough one, and it's going to be a massive game.
I know they've only just played Japan, and you've got to take Japan. But they're looking good. All Blacks.
That's looking good, but also a new season, new everything else for them. So it is quite interesting. Then we also be looking at France All Blacks. Now that's the third game for the All Blacks, and really a tough season for them. Now. Yet again, if you want to talk about a bogey team, French over the All Blacks always. Last time they played together, remember they was in the World Cup opener, and the French just totally outplayed the All Blacks.
And they're a different side at home. I mean, when that French crowd get behind them,
we saw during the World Cup,
it's like raise their level.
I hope they're still passionate after that very disappointing the World Cup. I think that just broke their hearts totally when the Box got one over them. But it's going to be interesting and it's going to be tough. So a lot to look forward to. And then I think that's from my mind those big games that we're going to be looking at in the coming weeks. We will be featuring them in a bit more detail. So let's quickly look at this weekend. So the 2nd of November, we've got it's a bit of a pre-season. Not all the teams are playing, but we do see that big game, as we mentioned, the English against New Zealand. I think it's going to be a third test for them. So for them, it's a bit of wrapping things up. So I think that's quite important. And then quite interesting, Scotland against Fiji. Now I like this because Fiji was the black horses in the World Cup, right? So they came through. They managed to reach the quarterfinals. they had some very nice upsets against Australia, was one of them. So I think, hopefully they've got consistency, and I think it's going to be a quite entertaining game. The Fijis tend to run, and they tend to just get things going. But yeah, I think
the Scottish will try and keep it up front.
The Scots and wet weather, they will be getting it down. So I look forward to this. So I think a lot of we will go into a bit more detail into that, Peter, going into it. But I think let's kind of move on to the more fun stuff. So in this week's edition of our social media, so the first clip we're going to look at, oh man, you're going to love schoolboy rugby in South Africa. Now we not even high schools. Now this is our under 13 game. You see a little fly half catching the ball.
Was he the fly half?
Number 10, from his own, within his own quarter. A jink, a dummy, a sidestep. Yes, this guy just opened it up, going through the whole team, scoring a brilliant try. Unfortunately, got a little bit run over by one of his opponents at the end. But you got to love barefoot rugby, man. And this is where it all starts, Peter. This is really the foundation.
But it's amazing how at that level, my son is under 13. And you get these talented kids that can do this thing, and they've got a great step, they've got pace. And they can make a big difference.
But I also like is like the guys, the skills level is so much higher now. I'm flashing back to I was my 13 years. We didn't do any of this. It's like going to contact. Like the technical elements. These kids are trained at school, like primary school level.
It's unbelievable.
It's next level. And listen, hats off, because this is the foundation of why we're such a strong rugby nation. Because that's where it all starts, right? Okay, second clip. Okay, Cardiff against Ulster. Now, our man, Werner Kok, also South African, playing for the Ulster men. You see a brilliant dive back inside and tapping back that kick from Cardiff into goal area. And that from there, they played on and actually scored a try. Listen, Werner Kok is an exceptional player. Obviously skill sets he picked up with the Blitz box. What a player. And that's like a never die. This guy just keeps on going. He just doesn't stop. And that just now shows again.
Shows the sense of presence. He knew where the line was. He could see the ball was kind of going out. You're not allowed to touch the line.
That's the thing. All coming from outside in. You need to stay infield. So fantastic.
Ball swirling. You know what I mean? It's the presence of mind it's incredible.
Absolutely. And then the last clip. Listen, I need to bring blocks in the conversation. So this was during the game of when the Japanese picker played against the All Blacks. We saw a massive monster tackle, ball spilling back. This lock kicks it all the way through. Long legs, outrunning, perfect bounce, try time. It did break my heart a little bit because it was called back for the team. I did pick up a small knock on during that tackle.
So it wasn't a try.
It wasn't a try, but listen, give credit to a lock that runs 50 meters to go saw a try. So So Peter, listen, we're gonna end up on that very high note. Listen, I'm so excited. International season's there. Get your Bok jersey in the wash this weekend, because next weekend it's Bok time again. But let's sink our teeth into some international rugby. Listen, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll catch it next week. So, right, so guys, that brings us to the end of another exciting episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, look out for those international games and enjoy. Have a fantastic rugby weekend. Thank you.